Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about Fibonacci, especially the Fibonacci clusters. But let's just remember really quick about what Fibonacci actually is. Fibonacci is the sequence that we can see when things are growing, but also when things are contracting. It's the way the things grows, since they are really small, and even happens when it's really big. So no matter where you are in the market, you're always going to see these proportions of how it increases and how it decreases. But the importance about Fibonacci clusters is the relationship between this number and this number, and then the proportion of these two numbers is the same with these two numbers. So when this proportion is the same as this, they have a relationship directly between these two, and that can be seen when we study this chart. What we see here is that we get the same number. It doesn't matter where we are in the proportion of the market, but the higher the number, the more precise is the number, as you can see here. But the main importance about this is that the proportion between these two is the same between these two. So when I trace a Fibonacci here and I trace another Fibonacci here, I'm gonna get the same number, the same proportion, the same ratio. So this is why it's important to understand this table, because we are actually looking at one ladder up, one ladder down, about how the price expands and how the price contracts. So basically what we have here is the 382, the 618, and the 786 as the main numbers for the contraction. And the 1272, you must remember this is the root of 1618, and also 1618 and 2618. This is how the price expands. And we can also use the negative numbers of 618, 382, and 786. Whatever you do in the market, you're always going to see the same, because it's like a mirror. So let's continue. Let's remember that we have an impulsive wave and then a retracement. The retracement is going to go back to a certain level and then move to the next one. This is what it's called extension and retracement. How much the price is going to go back and how much the price is going to go. So when we apply this to the charts, we are going to see something interesting when we mix up Fibonacci retracements. In this case, we can see that the master Fibo is the one is the highest formation. The first impulse down, we can see the 618 right here. But what happens if we trace another Fibo from this length of wave? We get another Fibonacci that matches with this 618. That's where I trace my first blue box to mark the Fibonacci cluster. Fibonacci cluster means two Fibonacci that are close together when measuring different kinds of waves. And you can measure different kinds of wave. It doesn't have to be something precise, like for example measuring A. It can be measuring this length of wave C. You can also measure this little wave 1 from this ABC. And you get another number that matches with other two Fibonacci's, as you can see here. So the more Fibonacci numbers that gets really close to it, the stronger it's gonna be this cluster. So it's really important to notice how these Fibonacci levels mix it up. Like for example down here, you can see that these Fibonacci form a barrier and the price couldn't go up from here. But if it does, then it's going to go back, test it, and then go away again. In this case, you can see that after the breakout, I can trace my first Fibonacci from this rise, and the price is going to go back to the 618. But I also can trace my Fibonacci in this wave, and I'm going to get another Fibonacci, and that's my Fibonacci cluster. As you can see, the price bounces in the lower side of it, and then it goes away. Then I can use another Fibonacci here, and you can see that my price came to this level of the 618, but it also matches this 1618 extension from this other Fibonacci that I have here. And the same goes for this 1618, and you can see that the price had a reaction there, but once it crossed it, it went away to the next level, to the next step, and then the price turned back. It always does the same, but you can see that it had a resistance here, went below, came back up, and then goes down. I have another Fibonacci cluster here. What happens in the price? Tried to go up, couldn't, and then it goes down. Where it found resistance in this Fibonacci cluster, the price tried to resist there, it reacts. But when there is no like any important clusters, the price just move. The price just move. In this case, we can see that in Bitcoin, we could find the end of a corrective wave by measuring different waves. For example, for the last bottom to the top of the last bull run, we get here a Fibonacci of the 382, very precise, but also we can use a Fibonacci from this length of wave A, that this is a leading diagonal, and we get another area of interest. And when we trace a box here in this Fibonacci cluster, we can see that the price got to this level and then turn back up. Then I also use my Fibonacci from this low to this top, and I'm gonna get this level of the 786. But I also use this wave from here. Doesn't matter if it's W, X, Y, or A, B, C. The main idea is that this is a length of wave before doing a counter trend wave, so I use it. And then what happens in these levels, I get a Fibonacci clusters that almost matches to this one, and the price bounced back up. And now you can see that the price went really high after this. So it's really important to get these real horizontal support and resistance zones that's called Fibonacci clusters. In this case, you can see very important information that you can get when you measure different kind of wavelength like this. For example, you measure this wave, then you measure this wave, you can see this Fibonacci right here, then you measure this other wave right here, and then you measure this other wave right here, and also you measure this wave that you get here, and you also measure this wave that you have here, and you also measure the wave that is here. And what happens when you do all these Fibonacci everywhere, it's gonna look a little cluttered, but don't mind that. The only thing that you need to do is find these numbers, and when they are close together, trace a box between these levels that matches each other, that is very close to each. That's an important place where you want to see how price reacts. And look what happens. The price came back down, it had some kind of support, came back up again. This is a level, and I know that if I trade here on a Fibonacci level, I'm gonna have here on 786, and I also have this 618 from below. But the main idea is that the price broke here, tested, and then went down, and it crossed everything, and that means this is impulsive, so I need a new low, and that's what it did. And what happens next is that it bounced, get to the top of this level Fibonacci cluster, and then bounced again from those, and then bounced again from this Fibonacci cluster, and it went back up, tested this Fibonacci cluster, and then stopped here. Then the price back and down here, tested ABC in these levels 1, 2, 3, and then the price tried to resist here, but it went down with a big candle that crosses all this, made a new low. I had missed levels. This was a leading diagonal, ABC, this is a flat, and you can see that I came back to the 786 with the cluster of the 272 when I measure this wave B. This is really important because this is A, this is B, and this is C. When we measure B, we get a target for C, that is the 272 extension from B. Another thing that you can do is measure A, and maybe it's gonna match again. But the main idea of this flat is that you know that it's gonna go up 1, 2, 3, and it made a rise. And after that, it ABC, you have here some sort of truncated zigzag, bounced on this cluster Fibonacci, then it went back up. Where did it stop? In this Fibonacci cluster, back down, but it tried again, and once it broke it, it went up again. So it's really important to have these zones in mind, but also the patterns. In this other scenario, we have the same. We have here a downside movement and then a rise. So I consider this my impulse and I measure it. What happens? The price came back to the 618, but I also measure this wave A, B, and C. And you get here a Fibonacci cluster where the price bounced twice, and I'm sure I have some divergence here, and then the price broke below, and then the price broke above here, and you get this running flat that is happening right into this zone. What happened next is that it broke above, and once it's broken, it went up really fast. In this case, I have my ending diagonal this area, and I can measure this wave 2 from the wave 1, and I find here a level where the price is gonna stop. But I also measure once it makes my first movement up here, and I can see that the price returned to the 618, But I also measure my wave B. This is A, this is B, and this is C. So I measure my wave B, and I can find my 272 that is mixing up with the 618. I trace my blue box and see what the price did there. Then it did some sort of leading diagonal, so I traced my another Fibonacci tool, almost returning to the 618, but it was in this Fibonacci cluster that I had here. And as you can see, the price couldn't go below it, and when it went to a new height, I can find another resistance in this area, but the price always stayed above it. So, and it came to the rise from here because it did here an ABC, a running flat up here. Here we have an example for an expanded flat of how we can find C and B. When we get a rise, we expect a counter trace movement as A. This is a leading diagonal A. And then we have our B. And if we see this, we trace a Fibonacci from A, and we can see that the price stopped right here in the 272. So I'm expecting it to stop here around 272 for the other side of the A. And that's what it did. And I also trace here my Fibonacci from the top to the bottom. And I also trace my Fibonacci from bottom to the top. And I can see that 786 matching this Fibonacci cluster, and that's what the price did an ending diagonal. After that, it did a rise, a running flat, and I did a new height. Here's another example for the zigzag. You can see here this is a little diagonal A, and then a B, and then a C with an ending diagonal at C. It's very important because we can see that this low with this high, it right in the 382, it bounced twice, and I also use my wave A to measure, and I can find here a Fibonacci cluster where it bounced twice. After that, it went up, tried again, and then the price made a new high. And lastly, we can see in this map of Fibonacci cluster the same thing. I measure this wave A, then I measure my wave B, and then I measure my wave 1, and then I measure my wave here, and I also measure this wave here, and then I can also measure my wave this 0 from this 1. And what I'm gonna get is some certain areas where the Fibonacci's are gonna mix it up, and you can see, for example, here, here, and you can see here, and you can see these two. And what happens when I extend, for example, I use this Fibonacci tool, but I extend it up here, it matches with a future Fibonacci level. And every time the price came here, it had some kind of resistance, but it broke away. Then it came back down, tried to resist, but it came down again. Then the price made a new high here, so I expect this to rise again, came back up, tested again, and then the price went up again. So this is a really important Fibonacci, but it's only because it has so many Fibonacci mixing up together. Also, this level has a lot of Fibonacci clusters, so watch out what the price does. It can't go up, it went up, it tried to go down, and then it bounced twice on it in a form of, I don't know if it's a running flat or something, but the main idea is that it kept bouncing on there until it make a decision, So it's enclosing the price in these areas, and you can find them by measuring different sizes of wave by using Fibonacci retracement tool. So it's really important because when you use this in the past, you can extend it to the future and find certain levels that it can't repeat. So that's basically it about Fibonacci clusters. I only want you to practice this, go to a different kind of charts in time frames, trace Fibonacci retracement tool in different wavelength, and find out for yourself these maps, because it's going to be very interesting to see how this price reacts in these different areas where Fibonacci mix it up with each other.